There's an old saying in life that it doesn't take all night to do anything, or all day. And such was the case this past Saturday in Belfast, where we got a chance to see the IBF featherweight title get contested, where Luis Alberto Lopez took on Mike Conlan in Mike Conlan's second attempt at a world title in a year. The funny thing about that is this was an action-packed fight. Although it lasted a short time, it was the type of fight that fans typically like to tune in and watch and be entertained by. That's one of the reasons why I'm talking about it right now. I didn't get a chance to do my pre-fight video on this, but I had said that this was probably going to be the fight of the weekend. And you know what? To me, Saturday, May 27th, 2023, that's exactly what this was. Let's talk about it a little further. Championship medal. That's what we like to see when it comes to boxing. For casuals as well as those who are more seriously invested in the sport of boxing. And you needed to look no further than this IBF World Featherweight title fight between Luis Alberto Lopez and Mike Conlan. Two men who were going at it simply because they relish challenges. Now, for Alberto, he was the guy who went in there and fought Josh Warrington and upset Warrington at a time when Warrington really appeared to be a guy that they were trying to corner the market with. And he had certain advantages, fighting in his hometown, fighting against guys that the judges wouldn't consider. But I'll tell you this, Luis Alberto Lopez is a champion. And in this fight, he showed it. Now, Mike Conlan came in and tried to contest. But you know what? Alberto showed his wares. He showed what he was truly about. Now, I like to say that both men whose records now stand at, for Lopez, he's now 28-2 with 16 KOs. And Conlan entered the fight with a record of 18-1 and 9 KOs. He had a size advantage. Lopez was 5'4", 5'5", and Conlan's more like 5'8", 5'7". But I'll tell you this, these two men, their styles meshed well because Lopez is an unorthodox fighter. And he comes in from the southpaw advantage, and he throws his punches from weird angles. I've spoken about him being reminiscent of the Prince, Nassim Hamed. And that's exactly what he was doing in there, shooting his shots from awkward angles. And Conlan, whose game plan was to attack, he was attacking Alberto's body and shooting shots down low and coming back up top. But I was concerned if he was going to languish on the inside a little bit too much because though he's small in stature, Lopez is a puncher, people. He can really crack. And when he was in there with Josh Warrington, that fight went south fast for Warrington when he disrespected the punching power and prowess of Lopez. He resorted to headbutts and clinching and fouling, but Lopez stayed focused, stayed in the fight engaged, and was able to lift that title away from Warrington. In this fight, you could see that Conlan was trying to get off to a fast start, but it wasn't serving him well. He was being countered with shots by Lopez from all different angles, and he just couldn't really see where the punches were coming from. And there were moments where Lopez would get him near the ropes and would open fire, and it brought back those memories of the fight with Lee Wood when he got caught near the ropes and ended up being pounded and KO'd, knocked through the ropes against Wood, was Conlan. Conlan was in very good shape for this fight, and his motivations were spot on for a guy who wanted to challenge for another world title. But he had to consider the opponent. I tell you, some of these fighters that are coming out of Mexico are really good, which is one of the reasons why I heavily criticize Canelo Alvarez, because if you give these guys opportunity, they will show you on the world stage why they should not be dismissed. And there's quite a bit of a rivalry between Europe, UK, and Mexico. You're seeing it on a regular basis now, and it's exciting. It's making for very good fights. The rivalry here extends to the degree that Lopez is now calling out Lee Wood for a unification fight for his next go round. And that would be an interesting fight. Now that Wood has got his rematch victory from Mauricio Lara, it could make for an interesting fight, either by the end of the year or sometime early next year. What's next for Conlan? He had a rough go here. And I have to tell you, when he ended up getting dropped, it didn't look very well for him. It was in the 5th round, and he went down. And in the 4th round, prior to the end of that round, his corner was kind of looking at him because they could see that Conlan was either diminishing or his focus was off. But I'll tell you, Lopez was trying to get this uppercut in there all night long. And in the 5th round, he finally landed that devastating shot. It was so brutalizing that when Conlan suffered from that shot, he went down in a heap and was never to get back up. I mean, it was the type of shot that one punch KO, but it was a shot that Lopez was landing, and he was getting closer and closer to nailing him with that particular shot to really get him up out of there. I think that Conlan wasted too much time being in too close. He needed to establish distance, use the jab, use lateral movement, tie Lopez up, make him miss, and reset all over again. And then if he wanted to try to, in the later rounds, go in for the attack against Lopez, he could have fared a lot better at that time. But he wanted to try to get at him early. And I can respect that. I can respect the fact that a fighter wants to try to engage. But in this game, I've talked about it so many times, you have to fight smart. It's not about fighting with your heart all the time. You have to fight with your head. And if he could have just gotten beyond the first 5 to 6 rounds and then start to implement more of a physicality, it could have served him well. Personally, he said that if he couldn't win this fight, he thinks that his career is kind of all for naught. But I'm here to differ on that. I salute Conlan because he's been taking on quality opponents over the past couple of years. And sometimes guys best you, sometimes you make mistakes. And I believe in the Leigh Wood fight, which he had Wood hurt early. He just tried to prove himself to be too much of an aggressor when he should have been more smart. A wounded man is a dangerous man. It's always been the case in life. And so Conlan got caught when he was trying to be aggressive when he should have been more wary of the wounded Leigh Wood. Same here with Alberto Lopez, where he's a puncher who's very awkward with his style and can catch you at any moment. So you have to be wary at all times of the possibilities of what he does. Otherwise, you can meet the same fate that Mike Conlan ended up suffering. Overall, it was a pretty darn good fight for Luis Alberto Lopez, and the sky is the limit for him going forward. Now, will he face Leigh Wood? I know he and his people are talking about it already, that they would love to see this be their next opportunity. And I look forward to it. The featherweights are pretty good, and they have power, and sometimes they have speed and skill that the rest of the sport doesn't display all the time. So there's some excitement down there watching these little guys get it on. And I'll tell you something. Luis Alberto Lopez fighting similar to Prince Nassim Hamed, but without all of that eccentric behavior and the bragging and the ego-driven marketing. This man right here is dangerous, and he's a little guy, and he carries a big punch. So salute to Luis Alberto Lopez, and I hope that he gets a chance at a unification fight. It would make for something interesting, and I do believe that whomever he faces next, even if it's Leigh Wood, Wood is going to have to be careful, because this fighter is a lot smarter than the other adversary that he faced in Mauricio Lara. And I think that Lopez prides himself in being a world champion, so you don't have to be concerned about whether or not he's going to show up in the fight in shape or not. Yeah, how about that? So, what do you think? Leave comments. This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know your thoughts about Luis Alberto Lopez and Mike Conlan's fight, a scintillating 5th round KO, one punch by Lopez. He's on his way, people. What do you think? Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.